Hi guys, this is Eric from Lunicycle, and this is Carl from
electricbikeblog.com.
And he said he'd never come to LA again.
Never, ever.
And
I'm done
he
with this place.
came back.
Just for you.
We start with a bike from Taiwan. This is a KHS bike. And what we decided was, rather than just bring in bikes from China and ship them out from here in the boxes that they come in, we will start with a bike that's proven itself to be a bicycle with quality components and as a respected brand already in bicycles.
Yeah, and the thing is that Taiwan really builds good bikes. Like, the thing that I've seen time and time again is you get on a Chinese bike from mainland China, it's not a good bike because they're too concerned with how much everything costs. They want to do cheap, you know, make more profit. And the thing with the Taiwanese bikes is, you know, most of the high quality brands right now that you buy are made in Taiwan. And
right.
They really know what they're doing. I mean, they've figured it all out, and they use high quality components. And I can't emphasize how important that is, because when you start running 1,500 watts, 2,000, 2,500 watts through the drivetrain, and you're using cheap Chinese crap, everything's going to break.
That's right.
I mean, everything.
And you know, the other big point is the Chinese haven't figured out yet how to make a decent suspension.
No.
Like, give me one good Chinese suspension. D&M, right? Do you know what D&M stands for? Does not move.
Suspension forks are complicated, and I think a lot of the problem is the Chinese in mainland China, there is not the engineers that you need to have, and in places like Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, other places like that, they have these engineers, and they love
bikes.
They love bikes.
Yeah.
They love figuring out the technical
Every
part
time
of it.
I visit a China bike factory, they don't ride bikes. They're in the cars. They want cars. They don't want bikes.
They all want cars.
Yeah.
For them, bikes are what poor people ride, you know?
Yeah, in Japan and Taiwan, there's definitely a big bike culture. They love their bikes. And I think for a company to make a badass bike, the owner and the management really needs to love bikes. And I think China is really missing that. And their full suspension frames that I've seen are a complete joke. Recently, we decided to just cut out the whole gravity lines, the bike direct lines, because we're just so disappointed.
It's all from mainland China. And the last bike I bought from Bikes Direct, a $1,500 bike, and it had no bearings in the bottom of the headset. Like, I couldn't believe it. I took the bike apart. They just threw a bunch of grease in there. And this is for a $1,500 bike. And it came with so many scratches on the frame that I actually got another frame. So it's just like, you know, they just don't care, and the frame design itself is literally so bad I can't ride it. It's the only bike I own that I can't ride because the back end sways all. It's a full suspension fat bike, and the back end sways all over the place.
And full suspensions is where it really gets tricky.
Right.
You know, it's really hard to
for a fat bike.
Especially. Yeah. I can, in fact, and we'll show you a bike in a minute, and it starts like this. This is a full suspension bike right here that we build, and it's still a far thing from what we could sell as an electric bike. It comes in a box, and we take a lot of care from here to take it out, unpack it, and from there we electrify it. And it's a lot more than a do-it-yourself build when we do it, and we're going to show you why.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
The bikes that they're building here now are like, they look like professional builds. It's unbelievable. They look like $5,000, $10,000 e-bikes. So, but we're going to show you everything.
Okay, so let's go straight from here, and we'll show you how this bike, how it looks when it's fully assembled, and then later on I'll show you our mini little factory here.
I can't wait.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Okay. Hey. Okay, so here we got a finished bike of ours that we haven't even released yet. What you're seeing here is a lot of American man hours of very skilled labor going in and putting this bike together as well as we can put it together. And we're getting better at this. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 months, and we're getting better and better at it, and we're learning tricks as we go. This one has many of the cables are actually threaded through the frame, so you see as few cables as possible. You know, we got the battery to fit perfectly in here. We got the installs down to where we got a drive that's capable of putting up to 2,500 watts. That is mounted perfectly to the bottom bracket to where it won't come loose. We have the chain line as good as we can get it. We pick the right chain ring. In this case, it's a Lecky to give us the best possible chain line. Sometimes we use our own Eclipse, but the problem with the Eclipse on this frame, as you can see right here, we would hit the frame. And this one, we only have a few millimeters of clearance. So we picked the right chain ring for the job, and we have a whole chain ring a wall of chain rings to choose from, and that makes it a lot easier for us. And we're always thinking of new designs for chain rings. You know, we're able to, and if we can't fit the drive or we can't fit a battery pack, we can CNC a part to make it fit.
And that's really the piece that's, you know, when you talk about American manufacturing, yeah, we're not making the motors here in America. Yeah, we're not making the bikes here in America. But when you see the kind of love and care that goes into putting these bikes together, I mean, these guys are e-bike enthusiasts. I mean, they're crazy about e-bikes, and they ride. So they know how important having a good chain line is. So when they put the chain ring on, you know, if it's not right, they're not going to send it out the door. And that's not something you're going to see with every e-bike company. These people, they just don't ride, and when they do ride, they don't ride hard. And I got to say, I got on this bike and I rode this bike, and I'll tell you, this is the best full suspension e-bike I've ever ridden, and it's not that expensive. You know, the retail price on the bike alone is about $2,500, and we don't know what the price on the bike is going to be yet with all the components, but I tell you, no matter how much money you spend, it's going to be very hard to get a trail bike this good anywhere else. And with the color display, it's got, now they're installing little bells on everything, and it's just like all the attention to detail. And every time Kyle's putting together a bike, he's paying such close attention to what can I do better next time. You know, it's like he's just like, how can I hide more of the cables? How can I make it look better? How can I make it ride better? And it's just like, it's that little attention to detail that makes all the difference.
And here's a big thing. Like, we open it from a box from KHS, who, like I said, is our bike people. The old man who owns the company rides a bike every day. They're not electric bike people, but they don't quality check them here in this country. And when we open the KHS bikes, we find a lot of problems in the ones that we open here. Now, if you can imagine that most electric bike models are just get a bunch of boxes here and ship a box out as they order it.
They don't even take them out of the box.
I mean, a big problem for them is quality control, because most people who run an electric bike company aren't bike fanatics, and maybe they love e-bikes. But to start with, the guy Kyle he mentioned is a bike fanatic, and on top of him, we have guys who are electric bike experts, who are the component experts and hardware experts, to where together we're able to like really craft something, make sure that everything's perfect and riding perfect. We test ride each bike for a quarter-mile ride to make sure everything's tuned and right. When I was at an Interbike last year, they have BBS HDs there. Nobody had their bike tuned right. They didn't know how to adjust the derailleur.
It was a joke, you know. The big Bafang had the, you know, the Velcro zip ties around it. Everything.
Nobody had a good. Nobody even had their derailleur adjusted right. And a key to these bikes is they're bicycles. They're not just a hub motor bike where your pedaling mechanism doesn't matter. So for that reason, you really need quality components. You can't skimp and have some Chinese brand or really cheap, you know, knockoff derailleurs and shifters that suddenly the drivetrain really comes into play. It's critical. We pride ourselves with being a part company first and coming up with the parts to make the perfect bike, because we do plan eventually to have our own frames and to have our own purpose-built bikes. But for now, we're collecting parts like these bells. We bought 3,000 at a time to get the price, and we throw it in for no extra price on the bike. And the pedals was an amazing thing. I just spent so much time just sourcing the perfect pedals, and was going to go with our own brand on a pedal, have one made for us with our logo on it, and decided to go with name brand pedals because we can't touch the quality that Masso does. And Masso offered to put our logo on it, and we said no, because you guys have a reputation and we don't. And these are your pedals, and we don't need to rebrand them with our name. And Giant is such a great name. A lot of these companies have the idea to repaint a KHS bike and put their own logo on it. And it's a bad idea, because the Giant name and the KHS name, they stand on their own.
It's a solid name, dude. It's a solid name. You buy a Giant bike, and it doesn't matter how much you pay for that bike. You know it's going to be quality components. And look, you know, if you're strapping a 3,000 watt hub motor on a bike, none of the drivetrain matters. None of the components really matter, except maybe your brakes. But the thing is we're running 2,500 watts, up to 2,500 watts through the drivetrain, and the components matter. And I don't know how to emphasize that enough, because every time...
The brakes matter,
well,
right?
The brakes matter,
everything.
Every time I go out and ride, pretty much, I break something. And I'm riding at a very high level.
Right.
But for anybody who's doing trail riding, when you go out, you're going to break stuff, because the bikes were just not designed to take this kind of power. And for me, I don't care. Like, I want the lightweight. I want the best components I can get.
Exactly.
But it's like, you got weight, you got price, and you got durability, and you get to pick two. So the thing is if you're going to go cheap on the price, you're going to suffer from the weight and the durability. So, I mean.
Yeah, and I think before we came in, the whole do-it-yourself scene and, you know, most of the KHS conversions were based on like Walmart bikes. It was really cool to take a Walmart Dolomite, or this guy started the whole direct bike thing, right? And it's like what we're doing is we're saying, hey man, if you're gonna put this awesome motor system on a bike, it doesn't deserve to be on some mongoose Dolomite, you know? Like, you can spend the extra money to have quality tires, quality brakes. I mean, these downhill bikes made by these name brand companies are designed to do 40, 50 miles an hour downhill.
Downhill without falling apart and without the wheels coming off.
So it's like, you know, like you can feel the difference, and you can feel the difference in the we call them 3 echelons of different suspension bikes. And full suspension bikes, you can really feel the difference.
Oh, yeah.
And I prefer a no suspension bike to a crappier suspension bike because I think they're just made for looks. I don't think they really serve any function.
I mean, you can go to Walmart and you can spend $90 for a full suspension bike, but the question really becomes, do you want to go 40 miles an hour on that bike?
Right.
Are you really that stupid? And so, like, the thing is that this is the way to go. I mean, really, start with a quality bike, build it with quality components, and have quality people do it who know what they're doing. And then for people that are out there that don't want to build their own bikes, because there's a lot of people out there that they just don't want to build their own bikes.
Right.
You know, they just want to buy it, they want to have it show up, and they want it to work.
Right.
And it's great that we're now able to basically service that crowd. And these bikes are great. Like, it's got the seat post that goes up and down automatically. It's got Fox shocks on the front and the rear. And like, you can bunny hop this thing 8 inches in the air, no problem, from a standstill. You know, it's just it's so much fun to ride.
Yeah. And even if you're not a hardcore mountain bike guy, like I ride these full suspension, high quality ones, and man, they're cushy and nice and go off curves. And even for my kind of riding, which is just laid back street riding, which I think most electric bikers are about that, or just, you know, just going out, just blissing around the neighborhood, or going and grabbing a burger or something. It's just perfect. Like it's just so, like relaxed and nice, and everything works good and doesn't creak. You know, and you know, the frame doesn't flex so much when you hit the power, and I really enjoy. I want one, but
well, you should get one for yourself.
I should. I really should. Yeah, and the technology has changed so much between. Like, I have a top of the line full suspension bike from 10 years ago, and honestly, I haven't got myself another one because it's still so nice.
Yeah.
But when you ride one of these, you can tell that the technology's come along. They're a lot lighter. Full suspension bikes used to be like.
The shocks are amazing. Like, the shocks on this thing I don't own any. All I have is rock shocks, and these Fox shocks are so much better than anything I've ever ridden. I mean, it's just like the last couple of years, the technology has been amazing.
Yeah.
So if you want to jump in the air more than 2 feet, you need to have good shocks. Otherwise, you're gonna bite it, dude.
And basically, what I'm trying to say is, what we're doing is we're taking the best battery available, the best motor system available. We're combining it with the best bike and the best possible people to build it together. Nobody has the experience and the level that we're at right now. I'd challenge anyone on who does better builds as a company than Luna does right now. I know.
And you're selling them at a cheaper price.
And we're selling them at a price that nobody,
than anybody else.
And so what it turns out is like a killer combination that I think is the best deal in electric bikes right now. And
no question.
And I see other companies scrambling, saying, oh, blah, 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 you need a purpose-built bike. All those purpose-built bikes are made in China right now, and they suck. Like, I would challenge any comparably priced bike to one of ours anytime. And last time we did that, we almost got sued. Comparing
we don't talk about that.
Yeah, comparing one of these to a Chinese bike that looked awesome,
but
it's not going to do what these can do.
Yep.
Yeah. And hopefully they step up and we do see some awesome bikes that are purpose-built.
We would love that. We would love that.
But right now, like, the only thing that compares to this, I would say, are high bikes, but they're so low power.
Yeah.
And
you're talking about 350 watts nominal.
And they don't have the quality suspensions that these do. These are still at a higher level than even the $5,000 and $6,000 highs.
You would be crazy to buy a high bike when there's something like this available that puts out, almost 10 times the power and they
were made for the European market. Right. That's what a lot lot of people don't get, that those things are just being pushed on us, and we have a whole different law system and a whole different limit. Those things are made to be 350 watt legal.
But the thing is that just because the bike can put out 2,500 watts doesn't mean that you have to ride with 2,500 watts. So you can ride responsibly, and then when you hit the 30% incline, you really don't have to pedal. Now with a high bike, you hit a 30% incline, you're lucky if you don't have to get off the bike and walk. With these things, man, you can literally go up a 30% incline at 20 miles an hour, and I am not exaggerating. With the ludicrous controller, it's just insane.